Drakon OS, the Russian nuclear control fork. In the high-stakes world of aerospace and military engineering, standard commercial software is considered far too unpredictable. Enter Drakon OS, a specialized real-time operating system RTOS developed in the late Soviet era and strictly guarded by Russian defense agencies today. Unlike consumer operating systems designed to run multitasking desktop applications, Drakon OS is built with a single, uncompromising goal: absolute, deterministic reliability for running ballistic missiles, space vehicles, and nuclear reactors. The core of Drakon's power lies in its unique, proprietary, flowchart-driven programming language, which restricts developers to a hyperlogical, highly visual set of rules. This strict layout virtually eliminates human coding errors, memory leaks, and unpredictable system freezes. However, because this kernel is deeply integrated into the state's strategic nuclear command and control infrastructure, the source code is classified as a vital national secret. In Russia, the unauthorized possession, extraction, or distribution of a Drakon OS active kernel or its development libraries is treated with the highest severity, carrying charges of espionage and treason. It remains a ghost inside locked, air-gapped military networks, operating the most volatile hardware on Earth, far away from civilian eyes. Krypton OS, the Phantom Network. Krypton OS represents a radical, near-mythical experiment in absolute digital anonymity, emerging from the deepest corners of decentralized underground networks in the early 2010s. While security-focused operating systems like Wonix rely on routing local data through the Tor network, Krypton OS completely eliminates the concept of local computing. When booted from a secure drive, the OS immediately encrypts the host computer's hard drive, preventing any data from being written locally. Instead, it utilizes a highly modified Linux kernel built entirely around peer-to-peer RAM sharing. Under Krypton's architecture, active applications are broken down into heavily encrypted, fragmented blocks. These blocks are then distributed and executed across the unused RAM of other active Krypton users around the globe. This means a program is never running on just one physical machine. It is a distributed, shifting puzzle across a global network. Because of this, it is virtually impossible for law enforcement to locate, seize, or trace where a specific digital process is occurring. However, this absolute anonymity comes with severe legal consequences. The moment you boot Krypton OS, your machine automatically begins hosting and processing encrypted fragments of other users' data, meaning you could be unwittingly facilitating severe cybercrimes. The Xbox SystemOS Dev-Leak. In the corporate computing landscape, some of the most fiercely guarded operating systems are those powering proprietary gaming ecosystems. The Xbox SystemOS is the actual, unredacted Windows NT-based operating system designed exclusively to run on Microsoft's lockdown developer hardware kits. Unlike the commercial console dashboard consumers see, the dev kit version contains raw, low-level hypervisor tools, hardware-level diagnostic utilities, and active kernel debugging interfaces. When bootable master ISOs of this restricted operating system leaked onto underground hacking forums, Microsoft's legal team launched a massive, global counteroffensive. The legal volatility of Xbox SystemOS does not stem from malicious design, but from the immense financial damage it can cause. It contains highly classified DirectX hardware abstraction layers, proprietary decryption algorithms, and private corporate keys. Armed with this unredacted OS, sophisticated hackers can reverse engineer current generation hardware protections, discover zero-day exploits in the console's security model, and facilitate massive-scale software piracy. Consequently, hosting, sharing, or even downloading this contraband operating system triggers aggressive Digital Millennium Copyright Act (DMCA) takedowns and severe corporate litigation, as Microsoft treats this software leak as an existential threat to its intellectual property. Aries OS, the automated arbitrage weapon. Aries OS is a terrifying testament to what happens when cutting-edge computer engineering is weaponized for financial greed. Created by a rogue high-frequency trading (HFT) programmer, Aries is a hyper-minimalist operating system stripped of almost every standard feature. It has no graphical user interface GUI, no audio drivers, and no USB support. Every single line of code in the kernel is dedicated to optimizing raw network socket performance and minimizing CPU latency. Aries OS was designed for one highly lucrative and illegal purpose: front-running the global financial markets. Hard-coded with proprietary, stolen routing algorithms from major Wall Street institutions, Aries could detect an incoming stock purchase order on an exchange and execute its own trade microseconds before the original buyer's transaction could complete. This allowed the user to buy the stock and instantly resell it to the original buyer at a fractionally higher price, generating millions in risk-free profit. Because this software actively manipulates the public market and relies on stolen, proprietary code, financial regulatory bodies and the SEC globally banned Aries OS. Utilizing this operating system on any commercial server is treated as a major federal financial crime. Hydra bootloader OS, the EFI hijacker. Most malware operates within the boundaries of an active operating system, making it visible to modern security software. Hydra bootloader OS bypasses this defense entirely by running below the operating system. It is a highly specialized nested OS designed to be flashed directly into a motherboard's UEFI or BIOS chip. When a computer is powered on, Hydra boots in the microsecond before Windows, macOS, or Linux can initialize, taking absolute control of the system hardware. Once active, Hydra acts as a silent hypervisor. It boots the computer's primary operating system inside a virtualized container, giving Hydra complete, invisible access to everything that happens on the machine. It can log keystrokes, capture screen data, and inject malicious code directly into the kernel memory of the host OS, all while remaining completely invisible to Windows Defender or enterprise-grade antivirus tools. Because it actively subverts hardware-level security protections like secure boot, writing, possessing, or distributing Hydra is highly illegal under global cybercrime statutes. It is viewed by security agencies not as an operating system, but as an invisible master key designed to compromise any computer it touches. RedStar OS v1, the North Korean time capsule. While the tech world is familiar with North Korea's RedStar OS v3.0, which heavily mimics the aesthetic of Apple's macOS, the previous version 1, is a far more obscure and legally volatile piece of history. Released in the early 2000s under direct state supervision, version 1 was North Korea's initial, crude attempt to completely break away from Western-engineered Windows systems by building on an unstable, highly modified Red Hat Linux kernel. What makes RedStar OS v1 historic contraband is its aggressive, built-in state surveillance architecture. The OS is hard-coded with low-level watermarking utilities that run silently in the background. The moment any USB flash drive or media file is opened, the system injects a hidden, unique digital signature into the file metadata. This allowed the authoritarian regime to map out the exact path a smuggled piece of foreign media, news, or literature traveled as it was passed from citizen to citizen. Today, owning or sharing this early OS is heavily restricted, both due to strict international trade embargoes on North Korean state-developed software and the ethical issues surrounding active state-level spying technology. Sliver, the offensive strike OS. Sliver is a highly classified operating system developed by a private military contractor as an active, autonomous cyber weapon. While penetration testing systems like Kali Linux are passive collections of diagnostic tools requiring a skilled human operator, Sliver is built to fight. When booted onto a network device, the OS is designed to actively hide its presence by mimicking the digital fingerprint of standard, harmless office hardware, such as a network printer or a smart thermostat. Once disguised, Sliver kernel autonomously scans the local network, looking for active vulnerabilities. What makes it incredibly dangerous and highly restricted is its integration of active, weaponized, zero-day exploits. If the system finds a vulnerable computer on the network, it executes a targeted attack to infiltrate and gain administrative control without needing any command from a human operator. Because of its autonomous offensive capabilities and weaponized code, Sliver is classified as a cyber munition under International Traffic in Arms Regulations, ITAR. Possessing or distributing this software without state authorization is treated with the same severity as smuggling physical military weaponry. Black Edition Windows XP, the corporate sinking. In the mid-2000s, an anonymous underground cracking collective released what would become the most notorious bootleg operating system in digital history, Windows XP Black Edition. This was not a simple registry crack. The developers took Microsoft's flagship operating system, completely stripped out its activation servers and telemetry, optimized the kernel for peak hardware performance, and pre-packaged it with thousands of dollars of cracked, professional corporate software. Black Edition spread like wildfire, becoming a staple on torrent networks and peer-to-peer sharing applications. The release cost Microsoft billions of dollars in lost licensing fees, particularly from small businesses and internet cafes that used the OS to bypass licensing laws entirely. This sparked one of the largest corporate anti-piracy crackdowns in tech history. However, the true danger of Black Edition came later. Because the original ISO files had modified core system DLLs to bypass security, malicious third parties began hosting compromised mirrors of the OS. Millions of users who downloaded Black Edition to escape Microsoft's tracking unknowingly installed backdoored operating systems, turning their computers into a massive global botnet.